Today's Star Trek episode must be a lost episode, because the only copy I could find of it is black and white and in German. But we're not going to let that stop us. We kick off with the narrator telling us that in the future, humanity no longer is divided by nations, has built on the bottom of the ocean, and has established colonies in outer space. Doing the important job of patrolling all of this space is Space Patrol, and specifically the Orion. At least that's the ship that we're going to be following. Let's see how they're doing.
Hasso!
Obviously having a crappy day. Actually, he did not just call this guy an asshole and make an obscene gesture at him. He's talking to Hasso about some important course changes, I think. During all of this, the guy on the radio has been completely ignored by Cliff McLane, the commander who's in command. So now the boss has finally stepped in. She wants Orion to return to the space station, Space Station 13, immediately. But he says, sorry, I want to see whether or not I can land on the world of Rhea. Now, admittedly, I am dealing with the series in subtitles, and I know just enough German to know that they are leaving some things out. But it seems like Cliff is just doing this to see if it's possible. Like he and Hasso have a six-pack riding on whether or not they crashed the ship during the landing. Well, next thing you know, the general in charge calls in General Van Dyke to say they've had it with McLane. He's just doing whatever he wants with his ship, so we're going to take him off of space rapid deployment and send him to space reconnaissance forces so he can go patrolling, so he can have time to think about what a jackass he is.
Ich halte diese Strafversetzung für den größten Skandal in der ganzen Raumflotte.
So? Und McLanes Eskapaden, seine ständigen Husarenritte auf eigene Faust, waren das keine Skandale?
Der verrückte Flug zum zweiten Jupitermond?
Der Durchbruch zur Saturnbasis im zweiten Stellaren Krieg, das eigenmächtige Eingreifen auf Alpha Centauri und so weiter, waren das keine Skandale?
It's just a few hundred isolated incidents. What's the big deal? Besides, as the lackey says, the plan is that soon they're going to just have robots running the ships anyway. McLane is just getting shown the way of the future a little early is all. If only Andrew Yang had been here to put a stop to this. To add insult to insult, Lieutenant Yegolovsk is being assigned to McLane's ship to keep tabs on him. Oh, and by the way, these two are the only Orion crew members I'm referring to by their last names. Everybody else gets the first name treatment. Because, you see, they're long and complicated foreign names, and people have been telling me to stop pronouncing foreign names because I don't get them 100% right. So, fine. I'm doing McLane because even I can avoid screwing that one up. And as far as Yegolovsk goes, well, referring to the hard ass as Tammy just doesn't quite work. In fact, it sounds kind of patronizing, actually. So, you're stuck with Yegolovsk. Even though I know coming out of my mouth it sounds like some kind of German vodka. Anyway, she is serving effectively as the ship's political officer, making sure he's a good boy. Anytime McLane steps out of line, it's her job to knock him back into place. Though I don't know if anyone can stop this much greatness in one place. That's the kind of entry you only get in a blaxploitation movie. This is like Star Trek meets Dolomite. So naturally, they're aghast at this punishment, and McLane asks if he should just resign instead. But Van Dyke won't hear of it. He needs to get on the ship and flipping behave himself so that in 3 years he can get back to doing the job that he's good at. He just needs to get the jackass out of his system first. So the crew head down to the bar under the sea to drink away their problems while looking at fish. At least Hasso is, being several sheets to the wind and hoping that McLane might be able to smooth things over with his wife, who is apparently not happy that he's heading back out on the Orion again. To speed up the process, she comes by none too happy already, but McLane explains how vital it is that Hasso goes on this very important mission of playing traffic cop. So with nothing but a shrugging of shoulders, she lets them go. I mean, how can you say no when you're surrounded by fish, right? After we spend a little time listening to a returning ship complaining very loudly that the Orion is in their parking space, the crew can finally get to work on taking off, thanks in no small part to the giant-sized holy hand grenade here.
Bordkontrolle.
Leutnant Tamara Jagelowsk vom Galaktischen Sicherheitsdienst meldet sich an Bord.
Kontrollcenter läuft, Commander.
You know, McLane really makes commanding a spaceship look like he's a radio executive about to make a hard deal with the Rolling Stones.
Commander McLane, darf ich Sie darauf
Leutnant
aufmerksam machen?
Jagelowsk, zum Start brauche ich weder eine Hilfe noch eine Überwachung, also begeben Sie jetzt bitte in Ihre Kabine. Schalten Sie die Sprechverbindung ein, das ist ein kleiner Knopf, auf dem steht BSA, Bordsprechanlage. Falls Sie mich zu sehen wünschen, steht Ihnen das Visiophon zur Verfügung. In dem eingebauten Schrank finden Sie Ihr Bordgepäck, dazu ein Verpflegungsset für 12 Monate und eine Paralyserpistole, falls Sie sich zu paralysieren wünschen.
Always keep the options open, I say. After she sulks off and the countdown finishes, the ship takes off from under the ocean and heads for outer space. You gotta wonder how many octopi get frozen to the hull this way. With that done, the crew spends some time debating about their new spook on board, as she's referred to. One of them is hoping to get her in the sack, the other is convinced that she's actually just a robot. So they decide to see how she's settling in. I know she's a spy with her hands on a very short leash, but that doesn't make this any less creepy, guys. McLane tells them to knock it off, so Mario asks if she'd like to come by his place for some whiskey later, and she says, "Great, I'll be sure to tattle on you for that." So, she's going to make this a fun trip, isn't she? I'm starting to think that she's less of a political officer and more of a Catholic boarding school nun, just getting ready to start whacking knuckles with a ruler before the day's over. Case in point, a weather report comes in about a solar storm, and she insists that they cannot change course unless they first report that they are going to do so. There's only two problems with that. First, I don't think they would appreciate flying into a solar storm and destroying their nice ship, do you? And second, you can't call anybody up during a solar storm because there's interference from, believe it or not, the storm. Which means they have sent along someone who has permission to relieve the commander of duty, but has no idea what the hell she would do. Well, gang, I have to say, this day is close to being done. Only 1,094 like it. I'm sure that they're going to go by like that. What's getting on Atan's nerves right now is that his poodle is sick. He has one of the last 376 poodles left on Earth, but I'm sure there's bad news too. But Jagelowsk is too busy panicking to worry about poodles, and McLane decides he and Mario are going to head off to eat and laugh at her, certain that she isn't going to last, given that she's only slightly more suited to living on the Orion than she would be if she was floating naked in space. But enough fun, time to get on to the serious business of space patrolling. They found a broken radio satellite, and so they're planning to blow it up, but Jagelowsk refuses to allow it, no matter how much McLane points out that it's a big hazard to everyone. She is certain that any problem with this thing is going to be attended to by a tech support vessel. Apparently Space Patrol also has a geek squad. But anyway, she's not interested in them acting like a bunch of guys in a pickup shooting up a stop sign. Sick of this crap, McLane decides to just log it and call it a night. But before he can go to bed, Otten says that there's a problem with the relay station. The guy stationed there isn't hailing them like he's supposed to. So they try hailing him, but they just get a nonsense code back. And Jagelowsk says that, well, that's the end of it. It's not their job to investigate. So McLane explains that, leaving aside the fact that one of their own may be in trouble, that thing does do a job it won't be able to do in 48 hours when an automated ship needs a course correction, or else it'll crash into their planetoid. Rather wasteful for someone who won't let them blow up a malfunctioning satellite. And speaking of which, yeah, we can't fix the problem with that cruiser either on account of the radio signal that satellite is sending out jamming their communications. Why, it's almost as if the veterans of space travel know what the hell they're doing out here, huh? So they're going to have to send some volunteers down to investigate. And when Hasso points out no one ever volunteers for anything around here, McLane thanks him for volunteering, and Atan too, for volunteering by being in the vicinity. They're using a small shuttle that looks kind of like a mini-me version of the Orion itself, except covered with bubbles. I thoroughly approve of this. I may crack wise at times, but I do love dated technology and the way that it sometimes could just look so silly yet functional. I mean, I really wish sometimes that I was going to make some big-budget science fiction film just so I could have access to a production designer. I'd just lay out pictures from 30s, 50s, 70s, and modern science fiction in front of them and say, okay, make all these things look like they fit together. I want to see those huge tape reel computers right alongside vacuum tubes, right alongside modern touchscreens. Just make it all look like it fits together into one seamless whole. Let me tell you, if Battlefield Earth had done that, I would have given that movie 2 thumbs up. Okay, remember, we're here to kill Batman with our freeze rays. They're dressed like this in case there's a problem with the oxygen. And yeah, there is. A search of the place reveals the equipment is tuned to a frequency that they don't use. When they finally find the men, they're frozen in place. And not like with ice, like they were an animatronic that just froze in mid-movement. Hasso declares them dead, although by what measure I'm not exactly sure. Any life sign would also require movement generally, heart beating and stuff like that. I mean, I suppose you could have a means of taking their temperature remotely, although why it would need to be taken remotely in this case is anyone's guess. I mean, if Hasso is not safe from coronavirus in that get-up, then none of us are getting out of this quarantine alive. But the show does a great job of capturing the horror of being stuck on a dead ship or station. Though that does undermine it, unless their plan is to make a cream sauce at the monster. That is simultaneously the most badass and pointless thing that I have ever seen. But behind the door, they find... Boy, we really shouldn't have volunteered for this mission. Hasso figures that this thing is in violation of General Order 217, being a monster, and so he shoots it, but that only damages the wall. The creature is completely unaffected by the blast. If profanity did not exist, this would be the moment to invent it. They call it to tell McLane the bad news, and he tells them they better get back up here because we're going to have to pass this on to the big bosses. Alien invasion? Yeah, that's probably something that you should mention on your routine patrol.
Außerirdische Lebewesen in unserer Galaxis?
MZ4 ist eine der äußersten Basen am Rande des Niemandsraumes.
Gibt es irgendwelche Anzeichen?
Für unser Jahrhundert haben sie ein reichlich anthropozentrisches Weltbild.
Yeah, get with the times. They have as much right to marry as any of us do. Worse news comes in. There are enemy ships approaching. Oh no, origami. We may not survive this one, friends. Seriously outnumbered by ships much faster than their own, the Orion is going to need to bug out. But the shuttle's not back yet, and Hasso doesn't think they're going to make it. So McLane tells them to hang on while he copes with the crisis up here. Just, try not to get freeze-dried down there or anything. The bad guys are tough, using weaponry that flings them about the bridge. There is no hope of winning a fight here, so they're just going to have to pick up their shuttle and run away. That must be what the holy hand grenade is for. Yegolovsk points out the regulation requiring them, under these circumstances, to blow up the outpost to deal with the threat. But McLane will not sacrifice his true crewmen if there is any chance that they can be saved. Rules be damned. Or being in German, probably something like Gotterdammer Umfordnugen. It is logical, though. You can't let human tech fall into hostile alien hands. They'll be able to study it and figure out how to make Nintendos and stuff. So she puts her foot down and demands that they do it. McLane doesn't fight her on this, as deep down he knows that, however horrible it is, this is the right thing to do for the good of all humanity. But Mario is ashamed of him. And that hurts. I dropped him in so much lava and Mario always just took it in stride. But this is a bridge too far. which was why Mario wound up in the lava, actually. What really twists the knife is that down on the planetoid, Hasso still has utter faith in their fearless leader getting them out of this, little realizing that McLane himself is going to go down to pull the trigger personally. Except McLane stops himself at the last minute, unable to deliberately kill his own people no matter what the situation. Fortunately, he's spared from the repercussions of that, because Mario notes that the field that the aliens are creating blocks their energy, so they can't fire even if they wanted to. But not to worry, Hasso has struck upon an idea. This place is empty of oxygen, right? But why would the aliens get rid of it? They wouldn't need to unless it was harmful to them in some way. So, why not turn it on and try to kill them that way? Except no dice. The aliens have wrecked it. And the oxygen on their shuttle, too. Oxygen is definitely poison to them. Or else they have one really weird compulsion against the stuff. Oh, oxygen, you're so full of yourself because you're the third most common element in the universe. Well, let me tell you something. There's no bronze medal where you're going. So Anton comes up with an idea. Use his oxygen supply for his suit. Apparently it's like super duper condensed or something. He's got 90 days worth inside of a device that's about the size of a door hinge. Once they kill the aliens, they can then share Hasso's oxygen until they get back to the Orion. Hey, it's a perfect plan. Provided all their assumptions are correct and absolutely nothing goes wrong and the aliens don't turn out to be zombies when they die. But other than that, perfect plan. Luckily for them, though, everything does go right. The aliens are wiped out. So now it's just a matter of letting the brass figure out what to do.
Die Lage ist, dass eine unserer vorgeschobenen Außenbasen von Exoterroristen besetzt
Wir
wurde.
stehen also dem Phänomen gegenüber, dass eine außerirdische, raumfahrende Rasse unser Hoheitsgebiet betritt.
War doch früher oder später zu rechnen.
Ihre Gelassenheit beruhigt mich außerordentlich.
Hey, General, just so you know, I wouldn't wear that mustache even if I wasn't yelling in German. While they hash out what to do about the aliens, more good news for Hasso and Atan. The automated ship that prompted their landing? Oh yeah, it's still coming, ready to crash into them. Atan is extremely bitter about this, but says there's nothing that he can do. Whatever the aliens did to the communication system has boned it good. And what's really annoying is the fact that the Orion could stop it, but they aren't because they figure that crashing into the planetoid would deal a devastating blow to the alien invaders, unaware that the aliens are all dead and the humans are still alive. Although soon I suppose that's going to be moot. Except the ship explodes before it gets the chance. I wonder how that happened.
Und wem verdanken Sie denn nun eigentlich Ihre Rettung? Ich meine, wer hat die Challenger zur Explosion gebracht, bevor sie auf MZ4 herabstürzen konnte?
Das waren die Frogs.
Come on, I know you have a history with the French, but there's no need to call them that after they saved your lives. Actually, the frogs are what they call the aliens because... I have no idea. Anyway, the frogs had set up a force field, and that's what destroyed the ship. So it's allowed the two of them time to take down the shield and call for help. And now they're all safe and sound, and the enemy is vanquished for the moment. So they can head back to the undersea casino to get liquored up before the next great adventure. Post-episode follow-up. Annoying character goes to Yegolovsk. She's one of those people who is so uptight when she farts it shatters glass. We have a burn baby burn for the Challenger. The name of that automated ship. Yeah. Getting a bit of an uncomfortable vibe off of that. This is the first of 7 episodes from this series, and it's significant enough that I'm going to be doing a special dedicated to this when we're finished. So I won't say too much about it at this time. Other than that, I was extremely impressed with the atmosphere that we had on the outpost. It really captured the mood well, and was especially effective in handling suspense given the minimal resources they had here. And I think the alien was a great payoff, too. So, join me later this month as we get into episode 2 of, let's just call it Space Patrol Orion.
Hey,